Hello, BookTube. I had errands to run in town this morning. I thought it would be this morning, but then again, maybe not. I watched the weather forecast all day yesterday, trying to get one of them to settle down and stop reeling around like a drunken sailor. At first, they were saying it was going to pour rain all day. Then they said it's going to rain, around noon. Then it's going to rain around the afternoon. Then it's going to go back to not raining at all. Then it is definitely going to rain in the afternoon. I I couldn't make sense out of any of it. I couldn't get a clear line on the data itself, so I decided just the heck with it. I'm going to go. I've got stuff piled up here to do that I have been letting go because since my guest left, I have been moping. And the moping has gradually dissipated, but that still left a lot of stuff to be done. So I went out and did errands. Now, one of those errands that I thought was going to be supremely annoying. Last month when this errand came around, it was supremely annoying. But it turned out to be one. I learned a lot. The morning has had, the day has had wonderful effects. Just wonderful. So I went downtown and I did a bunch of errands. Once again, I arrived there during the dog walking hour. So not the very first walk of the day that all of the business people who work in Boston do themselves. So they're out, they're in their apartment buildings up in the sky. Boston has so much housing that they can walk Little Fluffy themselves, at 5 a.m, get an early coffee, spend some time with the dog. Then they bring the dog up to the 115th floor or whatever, and they have a dog walker who comes in hours later, 9:15, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, to walk Little Fluffy again. Now, I am not. I sound a little bit caustic, but I am not actually criticizing those people at all. They spend a lot of money to be as conscientious a parent to Little Fluffy as they possibly can. They would say, well, it's unreasonable for you to expect me to give up my $200K a year job because it takes me away from my dog for all this period. I have a dog walker who comes in twice a day. I have a dog sitter who comes in 3 times a week. Maybe I have more than one dog, so the Little Fluffy is never alone. I have help that comes in. They are perfectly encouraged to play with her and maybe give her a treat. And then I'm home at 8 or 9 that night. I am home, and the Little Fluffy is mine for the rest of the evening, etc. I am not bemoaning that at all. That is paradise compared to the life that many, many dogs on Earth get. But nevertheless, Little Fluffy or Gigantic Jake or whoever, they're in a perfect frame of mind to meet me and to smooch, liberally smooch. and of course, one little dog this morning met me, and the dog walker was saying, well, he's pretty shy around strangers, especially men. And then the little dog started shivering and licked my nose, and then the little dog licked my hands, and then he leaned into me a little, and when he was getting enthusiastic permission from all of those, he did what comes naturally next, and which he has never been able to do since he left his siblings in the litter box. He did the natural next thing. He bit my nose. Which is fine by me. It's how my nose got the way it is. The dog walker was a little horrified, but I said, no. He's asked 6 different times. He has escalated this just the way he should. He is never going to do this to anyone who doesn't give him all 6 of those yeses, and no one else is going to. So don't need to worry. He's not regressing or anything like that. So that was wonderful. That part of the walk of the visit downtown was wonderful, and my errands went smooth as butter. One of those errands was to mail out a ton of books. I have let my outgoing mail lapse just a little, and I can't do that because, as I mentioned to Zach, I've got the parasocial relationship all wrong. This summer it was right. This summer I was getting Steve tribute. Now it's gone right back to normal, where I'm mailing out things to people all the time when it's supposed to be the other way around. But I did all of that, and since I was doing errands, and since I was right there, I went to the Brattle Bookshop. Which, for those of you who are new, is a used bookstore in the heart of downtown Boston, and I love them. I've been going there for well over a year. They have 3 stories. They are a normal, just jam-packed used bookstore, but they also have a sale lot outside, next to the shop. It's not a barrow of sale books, or a cart or 2, or even 10. It's a whole lot. It's the floor plan of a whole building, if if a building were there. A building used to be there. A very particular building used to be there. It's thousands and thousands of books for $1, $3, or $5, arranged in no other way. So if you want to get the most out of the Brattle sale lot, you have to browse. You have to just browse attentively. There were a whole bunch of people there as I was leaving who were intent on not browsing attentively. They were intent on just sort of taking selfies with all the, what are these things again? Books. Probably they're all Book Talk stars. Probably they all have 1 million subscribers. But I spend most of my time out in the sale lot. Why would I pay more when I do not need books? I mean, just look at this place. I do not need books. So why? I mean, the inside of the shop is cheap anyway, but why would I pay more than $5 for a book if I don't have to? So I did a lot of shopping out in the sale lot, and I got a gigantic pile of books that I want to show you. I once again have no idea how I got them back here. None at all. Especially since only 3 out of all of these are paperbacks. All the rest are heavy hardcovers. So let's do the paperbacks first. I found one, a mass market paperback. I'm not really buying mass market paperbacks anymore. They tend to accumulate, and they are not comfortable for me to read anymore. Over time, their typeface has gotten smaller. That must be it. I found this Francis Polini's book, Crown. How's that for a cover? Now, I confess, this has all the markings of garbage, of trash for Garbogus next year. This has all the markings of that. It's got a salacious cover. It's got, at some point or another, some guy around 55 years old with hair coming out of his ears in tufts, wearing a dirty, beer-stained wife beater. Got a gigantic pile of these for his dumb thrift store out in Milwaukee, and put in permanent magic marker the price 50 cents on the cover of every one of them. Didn't care what he was doing. Didn't care about this crap. To me, it's never been on a Garbogus bingo card, but for me, that always is a sign of garbage, is that somebody has done that to a gigantic pile of mass market paperbacks. So I got this. I have no idea what it is, but I'm not going to read it until Garbogus. So I got that to stow it away for next year. Then the next paperback was a rebuy. This is James Lee's Milne. And I got this a couple of years ago. I hauled it on this channel. I got it from the Brattle. I read it. I loved it. I put it on the shelf. And one of you saw it and said, oh my God, I remember reading that, but I live in a used book desert. I will never see that on my own. And I really don't trust vendors online. Is there any chance you'd be willing to part with it if I pay for shipping? And of course, we all know how that goes, right? Not only am I willing to part with it, but I pay for shipping. So I did, and it was gone. And at the time, I told that person, I emailed them and said, they were saying, oh no, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? I said, I am willing to part with it. I am completely sure. And for a simple reason, which is that the Brattle will provide. No matter what the book is, I will see it again at the Brattle, and what are the chances that you will? If you have a half-price books that's 200 miles away from you and nothing else, then you don't have access to a ready supply of used books. And I do. The Brattle sees everything. They are out buying things all the time. And they're not all that picky. So it's just an endless array of variety. So I knew that I would see this book again, and I did. It's Roman Mornings, and now I have another copy. Unless one of you wants it, in which case out the door it will go. But this is just a lovely travel writing, but it's really place writing about Rome. This author did a book called Roman Evenings that I wish I could find. I wish I could find it in a hardcover with a dust jacket. Probably it's collectible. Who knows? But this author is incredibly eloquent on the subject of one of my favorite cities. I don't talk much about visiting Rome. I've visited Rome many times, but it's one of my favorite cities, and this is just a lovely book. So, and I grabbed it anyway. I would have grabbed it anyway because I need a replacement copy, but I also grabbed it with a little bit of a smug smile on my face because when I say the Brattle will provide, I'm right. It will. I've almost never known that not to be true. Although there are some things in this particular Brattle haul that I have never seen before. Okay, this next one is from the late 1980s. Are you from the late 1980s? Oh my God, look at all these blurbs. Well, yes. Yes, this was incredibly blurbed. 1994. This is by George Chauncey, and this is his book, Gay New York. a history of New York City for just about half a century at the turn of the 20th century. When New York was coming into its own, America was coming into its own in the modern sense of the word, and also gay identity was taking a shape of its own. Now, I think it was a disastrous shape. It didn't have many options. That identity didn't have many options because this was a hunted and criminalized subculture. But still, a lot of the stuff that was adopted by so-called gay culture at that time period, especially the 1930s, froze in place and has been only lately chipped away at all, in ways that a lot of the aspects of that warping of what it meant to be gay. I mean, I understand why it happened. You grow up, you become 15, 16 years old, you realize deep in your heart, if you're not in a religious fundamentalist community where you're just hysterically instructed to deny your own reality, if you reach 16 or 17, you know perfectly well who you're sexually attracted to and who you're not. And if you reach 16 or 17 in gay New York, in those years, that's going to be filled with horror. You are going to be filled with horror because you know how dangerous it is and how totally unacceptable it is. And most of the time that led to, let's say, the young men involved just sublimating it completely. Just, I'll have close male friends, but I will of course marry a woman. I will of course have children with her. And that's it. That's all there is to it. There's no alternative. There's no alternative for me to be. And the alternatives, if you wanted to risk it, if you wanted to give up that dream, the alternatives were, in my opinion, pretty negative. I mean, again, they couldn't be anything else. They couldn't be anything healthy. But here is where there was an exaggerated importance put on gay men acting like women, sounding like women, holding their hands like women, walking and running like women. Here's where an exaggerated importance was put, for instance, on smoking. Absolutely, as this cover shows, absolutely synonymous with being gay in a way that is so damaging that it is still true. That it is still true. If I look on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube and I see a young gay man, there's one thing I know about him before I know anything else. I don't know his sexually active status. I don't know his own coming out story or if he's had one. I don't know his upbringing, but I know one thing about him. I know he's a tobacco addict. That's horrible. That's damning. And that was born here. But largely born here. But the thing about this book is, I mean, my opinions of the subject matter notwithstanding, the thing about this book is how brilliant it is. Just amazing. It's just an amazing book. I want it in a hardcover with a dust jacket. I found the trade paperback. I'll gladly take it as a placeholder. That's another one of the things you learn at the Brattle, is if it offers you something, it's wanting to see whether or not you're willing to play ball. If you're not, well, fine. It can be tough and just deny you everything. If you are, it'll almost certainly give you what you want. So I got this, but I really want the hardcover because I know I'm going to reread this. I haven't read this since it first came out. And this is a perfect example of a book that made its author. This was, like I mentioned the blurbs, but this was absolutely universally praised. And I don't remember off the top of my head if the author ever wrote anything else. He certainly didn't write anything that was like this. This was hailed. This was hailed. This was a country taking its first tentative steps out of the worst ravages of the AIDS epidemic. And a gay culture realizing or seeming to draw a breath and realize, well, we survived the worst. We survived a plague aimed directly at us. There were a whole bunch of zeitgeist figures involved, factors involved here that made this so received. But it's also a great work of history, just fantastic. So I was happy to find it. That was the other trade paperback. Those were the trade paperbacks. All the rest of these are hardcovers. So let's just look at them. They have all sorts of warped book buyer psychology in them too. As you know, when I do a Brattle book haul, it's never simple or straightforward. So, like, for instance, this the other day. Actually, not the other day. It was about a month ago. I was out walking the bean on a random sidewalk up on the hill in the suburbs, and we came across one of those stone wall piles of a box of free books. It's not a little free library, just somebody. I'm just putting these out on the wall. and you can take whatever you want. Those, I don't know if it's just this neighborhood, but those are common in this neighborhood. And I always look, which is crazy. I shouldn't look. I have more than enough books. But I did. I looked, and I saw a hardcover with a dust jacket of the Viking Portable William Shakespeare. I have the Viking Portable William Shakespeare in the old mass market paperback, and I love it. It's got a few complete plays. It's got bits and pieces from all the other plays. It's got all sorts of stuff in it. I love it. I just love it as a handy Shakespeare volume, and I never see hardcover Viking Portable Library editions. Never. And so I grabbed it. I grabbed it unapologetically, brought it back here. And I did it even though I already had the book. I have a paperback of the Viking Portable Shakespeare. I did it even though I already have the book. And today, I saw another hardcover Viking Portable Library with a dust jacket of something I already have. So I grabbed it. You can bet I grabbed it. Because if this is a pattern, well, there are plenty of hardcover Viking Portable Libraries out there that I really want. So I grabbed this, the Viking Portable Dorothy Parker. This is what they all used to look like. This is the hardcovers always used to look like this. The Viking Portable Library, then the author in between two lines, and then the Viking logo. And I grabbed this even though I have the Penguin Classic Portable Dorothy Parker and the Penguin Classic Deluxe Portable Dorothy Parker, which don't have the same. The Deluxe has more items in it than the one volume just Black Spine Penguin does. I grabbed this anyway, even though I have those two things, and I believe I also have the Viking Portable Dorothy Parker, the paperback. This was the groundbreaker for the Viking Portables. This is the one that really did it for them, that showed them, OMG, there's a market out there. We should make a whole library of these things, and they did. This has an introduction by Brendan Gill, which I don't think I've ever read. I'm pretty sure that was not part of the Penguin or the Penguin Deluxe. So, and that's going to be nice and catty and chatty. And I'll gladly work my way through this. I'm not 100% sure that everything that's in here is in those Penguin volumes or vice versa. So I grabbed it, not only for itself, but also for the chance that it will lead to more Viking Portable hardcover editions. That would be great. Then I found something by C.S. Forster. You will know this guy is the author of the Horatio Hornblower novels. He also wrote the book Sink the Bismarck, which we talked about in Shorty September. This is a book of his with a dust jacket in a hardcover that I never see. I don't think I've ever seen this out in the wild before. So I grabbed it. It's a collection of stories called The Man in the Yellow Raft. Just little vignettes. I think there are 4 of them in here. Little vignettes of naval life during the Second World War. Oh, no, there's like 10 of them in here. Okay, so some of these things I will certainly not have read. Some of them will almost certainly have been collected in nautical anthologies. But I couldn't pass this up. I love Forster, so I couldn't pass it up. And I don't think that's the only... is that the only nautical thing? Oh, no, there's another nautical thing right here. Hammond Innes wrote a whole bunch of great books. He is a terrific author. He's now completely forgotten. He's a terrific author. And he wrote a whole bunch of books, whole bunch of adventure and espionage books, that sort of thing. But his favorite book of mine, my favorite book that he ever wrote, is nautical, and I got a copy years ago. I cannot for the life of me remember if I have it or where it is. It's almost, if I have it, it is almost certainly in the little book room. But I gave a brief look in there and I didn't see it. But then again, the little book room has had a bit of a seismic upheaval, so I might not know where it is. I will go book by book and see if I actually got a double. But in the meantime, I couldn't leave this behind, so I grabbed it. It's The Wreck of the Mary Dear, which has. Let's see here. Yeah, it has the maps and everything of where the Mary Dear went and where it was last heard from. This is terrific. But Hammond Innes is terrific. He is terrific and not as well remembered or known as he should be. I wasn't sure if I have that. I'm still not sure. So I will check and see if I do. Then this next thing. This next thing, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. And I can't be the only one that does. I don't know why I keep putting myself in this position where there are a number of books in a series and I get number 2, and number 6 and trust to my memory that I will remember that I have number 2 and number 6, and I'll remember which numbers I need. When that has never happened. I have never actually remembered that. So I condemn myself to a life of the Flying Dutchman. I condemn myself to holding up volumes in that series and saying, do I need this one or don't I? And then getting it because I don't know one way or another. We have not reached that far this time, but now we are at that point, thanks to this next book. I got The Hinge of Fate, which, as you can see, is volume 4 in Winston Churchill's History of the Second World War, which I believe he had a battery of people work up and largely write, and then he, I believe, sat down and went through it, polished it. I believe, from what I've read, that he was more involved in the writing and polishing of this book, more deeply involved, than I had once given him credit. In various comments long before there was an internet, and in various writings, I have pretty much implied that he never wrote a word of it and didn't read it. I don't believe that now. I think he was pretty heavily involved in this, and I want to reread the whole of his Second World War. And I have, you may remember, I found Volume 1, The Gathering Storm. Now I have Volume 4, The Hinge of Fate. Why do I do this to myself? Why? Why do I do this to myself? Do you think... Volume 1, fine, that's easy to remember. But do you think there's any chance that I'm going to remember that I have Volume 4 the next time I see a copy of The Hinge of Fate? No. Of course not. No, I'm not. And do you think there's any chance that I'm going to use the handy-dandy note application on my phone to leave a message for myself? No. No, I won't. How many different copies of Volume 6 in the Aubrey and Matra novels did I buy before I realized I already had it? Anyway, I am slowly building. Once I have all of these in hardcover with dust jackets, I am going to reread this whole thing. And I'm slowly building my way. I now have Volume 1 and Volume 4 out of... How many is it? David Murphy would know. I think it's 6. This is the Book of the Month Club edition, for which Churchill got a king's ransom. A king's ransom. Oh, you're not going to tell me? Oh, no, you're not going to tell me. You're not even going to list them. Isn't that arrogant of you? Well, anyway, I think the 6. And I now have Volume 1 and Volume 4. But better two than none. Okay, then this next one is an anthology volume. I love anthologies. I really, really do. I was noticing when I was looking over the carnage of the little book room, how many anthologies are in there and how much use I've got out of them, how much I love just roaming through them. They are so good when they're built right. They are so good just for themselves. A good editor will know the ebb and flow of an anthology. They will feel that on its own as an actual book on its own. But in addition to that, of course, they're great because you're scaring hairs up the whole time that you might want to pursue. You're finding things in an anthology that are going to lead you to reading that author. And I found one by an anthologist whose work I know well. Her name is Joan Khan, and this is her book, Hanging by a Thread. And it is an anthology of suspense, fiction and nonfiction. And this is it's by the author of the editor of anthology that I already know. I think I have it. I think it's in the little book room, called The Edge of Your Seat, or something like that. What was the name of your famous one, my dear? The Edge of the Chair. And Joan Khan was terrific. It is an absolute crime that we don't have a biography of her. That is just an absolute crime. That is, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to rail against the weird hiring practices of modern publishing, but nevertheless, there's something to be pointed at for institutional sexism that we get 2 new Hemingway biographies every year, while people like Joan Khan go unbiographed. That is just wrong. It is such a shame. She led such a fascinating life as an editor. As an editor who literally tripped and fell into the profession of editing. She'd never planned it. She had no experience at it, no training at it, but she was great at it and discovered a lot of authors. She was, as one of her editors found out when she was a young woman and a dame, when she was a young woman, one of her editors found out something that stayed true about her for the whole of her life, for 40 years of her professional life. And the thing that editor found out was, if I've got a gigantic slush pile of manuscripts, and neither I nor anyone in Christendom has the time to comb all the way through them, and they probably all stink anyway, but what if there's a 1,000,000-copy bestseller in there somewhere? Well, I'm not going to recognize it, even if I had the time to read through those things, and I don't. And neither does anybody else. And even if they did have the time, how many people, 1 in 1,000, is going to be able to recognize something with commercial merit, or literary merit, or both? Joan Khan was that person. And an early editor of hers discovered that if I turn you loose on this pile of manuscripts, you will pick out the diamonds, and you'll never fail. She had terrific instincts. She was also great with her authors. She was rough with them, put a semicolon out of place, but she loved them and they loved her. And I think she wrote a couple of novels. If I remember correctly, I read one of them and it was dreadful, which is often the case with great editors. But oh my, her anthologies! I think I have The Edge of Your Chair, and now I have this one, Hanging by a Thread, and I wish I had more of them. I know I don't have the whole run of them. I looked. Well, of course, when you see something like this at the Brattle, my instinct is always, well, it's possible then that if a person had this, they had other anthologies by her, and I looked, I didn't see any. But this has everything. Yeah, there are 2 parts to this, fact and fiction. In the realm of fact, you'll find the first New York City murder to make the headlines, notes on how Emperor Nero disposed of his mother, and pieces by 2 of the world's best true crime reporters, William Roughhead, reporting on a remarkably wicked old man, and Edmund Pearson, reporting on a small spinster who loved unwisely. And here I should point out that William Roughhead, his own books on true crime are incredibly good. They are amazing. He wrote a number of them, but one of his is a true crime classic that is not in print. It's a terrible, terrible shame. He really had a knack for it. And in fiction, be prepared to be haunted by Bulwer Lytton and terrified by H.G. Wells, to be puzzled by Charlotte Armstrong, to discover one of the earliest examples of the locked room mystery, to meet Wilkie Collins's enchanting detective Mr. Dark, to investigate with Dashiell Hammett the strange disappearance of 2 young girls, and to share a shudder with Dylan Thomas, Lord Dunsany, and 19 other writers. Can't wait. Can't wait. Also, one of the things I got today that I am 100% sure is going to end up in the little book room, which is always nice. I mean, theoretically, that is the goal here at the Brattle, is to get keepers, get books that I'm not just going to blow through and put back on the sale pile. I realize that isn't my only goal. I have long since come to terms with the fact that I use the Brattle as a kind of slow motion library, where I go, I get a bunch of books, I read through them. I don't just go on a pile. I read through them, and I keep the ones I really, really want, and I recycle the others back to the Brattle. And I always feel a little guilty about that, but I'm reassured by the staff members of the Brattle that they do the same thing. And I imagine a lot of people do in their own used bookstore. It's no skin off the Brattle's nose. Their turnaround is so enormous that it's not bothering them. In some used bookstores where I have been an habitué, it would definitely have been not quite the thing. The proprietor would have noticed that he was getting back 2 of the 4 books that he sold me last month. He would have noticed that. He didn't do much turnover, and he wouldn't like it. The Brattle doesn't care, so I get to do that. But the goal would be for stuff to be in the little book room. Like, for instance, a Churchill book. I have a feeling, just from having reread The Gathering Storm, that I'm really going to love this whole set. And I'm going to want the whole set to be in little book room. And Joan Khan, any of her anthologies will be in there. But anyway, also The Wreck of the Mary Deer. But anyway, let's move on. Next we have science fiction. I found a hardcover of who did this? Vintage. Put out this author with these weird new covers, and I've only ever seen them in trade paperback. I've seen The Demolished Man in this same kind of trade paperback, but here I found the hardcover of the short fiction of Alfred Bester, Virtual Unrealities, in this hardcover, this design. I looked at this at the table of contents here, and this is not complete. So it says the short fiction of Alfred Bester. It doesn't say the selected short fiction, but this is not complete. there are at least a couple of stories that I have seen, that I have read, in old Terry Carr anthologies. Terry Carr was a great science fiction editor who used to come out every year with the year's best science fiction. And he knew perfectly well what he was reading. He could tell a hawk from a handsaw, and therefore he was forever anthologizing Alfred Bester, who struck him right away, rightfully so, as one of the great science fiction writers. And there are short stories I have read in those Terry Carr volumes that are not in here. There's only about a dozen stories in here, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These are still going to be a joy to reread. Okay, then I found a hardcover without a dust jacket. I usually don't grab those, but this thing was on my mind. I found this. Let me show you. There's no dust jacket. So, The World of Aldous Manutius by Martin Lowry. And this is from the 70s? Is that right? 1979. I found this. The World of Aldous Manutius. Aldous Manutius was a printer in Venice who revolutionized the printing world, who was the ethos of the Renaissance, of the Renaissance's return to and love of ancient texts in really solid, well-researched editions. He was that love of the Renaissance, only he put the rubber to the road. He actually had a printing press. So he was able to make the editions that he was dreaming about. And I just recently reread this, Aldous and His Dream Book by Helen Barolini. And this is from 1992. And when I was reading this, I think even when I hauled it, I hauled this, a couple of months ago? September. Well, I hauled this in September, a couple of months ago. And I believe I said at the time that I would like to have this in hardcover, and also that there was an older Aldous Manutius book that I loved, that I remember reading, and I didn't quite have all the details to hand. I could easily have found it, but this is it. This is oh my God, some sort of book of Chablash. This is actually it. This is the book that I was thinking of, The Business of Scholarship in Renaissance Venice. That is just incredible, and now here it is. What have we got here? Oh, the Brattle Bookstore in Concord, Massachusetts. David and I have not been there. We will. That's the one where you walk up the flight of stairs to get there, right? It's not on the street. They have one barrow outside of sale books, as opposed to a whole lot of sale books. So now I am increasing my Aldous Manutius library, my Aldo Manutio library. I am slowly increasing it. I have a really good book, far more experimental than this book, and now I have the one that I was thinking of, plus a much more recent biography that came out that I have as well, which is all very well and good, because I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who, in a novel, has killed Aldous Manutius as a character. Of course, he died of natural causes, but that won't work for a novel, so I had him killed by a ninja. Pretty sure I'm the only person who's ever done that scene. Anyway, okay, we have more fiction. Yeah, we have a lot more fiction. For instance, I found this, and it was $3, and this has been nagging at me for a long time. One of those questions that came up just recently on BookTube, books that just don't let you go. You read them. In my case, you read them. I don't just dream about reading them. I read them, and I think something about that. It certainly didn't live up to its billing, but I could see there's something there, and then I forget about it. But it doesn't quite forget about me. It doesn't leave me alone. And this is one of those, this trilogy is one of those things, I just keep meaning to go back to it. I saw this today and thought, might as well grab it. You know, maybe the end of this year is the time. This is Palace Walk, the first book in the Cairo trilogy by Naguib Mahfouz, in a hardcover with a dust jacket. And I thought, well, okay, all right. Well, I mean, if I'd seen the box of all three hardcovers, that would be one thing. Or if I'd seen the other two, even better. But I found this one. And the other two will turn up in hardcover with dust jackets to match this one. I read this whole thing back in the 80s. Right? Is that... Oh, somebody included... Oh, how wonderful. This is from the New Republic. Somebody clipped out the memorial essay that they did for him. Who did this? Fouad Ajami. I don't remember if I've ever read that. 1989. Yeah, so in the 80s and into the 90s, I read these as they were coming out and wasn't much struck by them. And then Modern Library, I think it was, put all three together in one volume, and I got that from the publisher, and I reread them, and it's still, I thought, okay, there's a little more here than what you thought, but it still didn't do anything for me, really. And it's been sticking with me, so I'm gonna give it another try. It was easy to do. The only hard thing about it was carrying it back here. I somehow managed to do that. Then we have a very old book. This is, oh my god, these things are collapsing. Oh, and you know, the book that's causing the problem, of course, is Dorothy Parker. Oh my god. I found an oldie but a goodie. I have read this thing more times than I can count. I love it. I absolutely love it. I always say the Brattle will provide, but I honestly thought I would never see a copy of this thing. Never. This is by Reginald Wright Kaufman, and it is called The Ranger of the Susquehanna. And it is illustrated by Cynthia O. DeLand. And it is an historical novel. I wonder if we can get one of the illustrations. Sometimes in these old books, they are the last things that want to show themselves. I mean, I know I can get the opening illustration because it's right there. But maybe another one? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Only a strip of canvas hung between me and a sight of the mysterious Cressap. There he is, looking through a tent flap. And here we have, what is this? Do not open until Christmas. Isn't that nice? What have we got here? This is from Geneva. Is mailed from Geneva. This is the outside of the envelope. Somebody cut this off the envelope that the book came in and pasted it on the inside to remember that. And it is for Mr. Harrison Morris of Oak Lane, Philadelphia. To Mr. Harrison Morris, with thanks for his help on the matter of the Ranger's plain language. Oh, from the author. Huh, how do you like that? So the author sent this guy a copy from Switzerland. How interesting. Okay, well, anyway, this is in fantastic condition compared to the last volume that I ever saw. And I love this so much. It's so dumb. It's so cheesy, but I love this so much. You know, this makes me want to research the author. See what I can find out about the author. That would be great. I think the author led, if memory serves, he led a fairly active life. And I think was one of the many, many authors who made a killing in Hollywood. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, this book came out at the turn of the 20th century. This is like the 1920s. Let's see, 1924. And now I have a copy. So I'm going to read it again for the billionth time. Then more fiction. I found a hardcover of Back Bay by William Martin. I never see this in hardcover. Never. This is incredible. This is his debut novel, of course. It was a sensation. It is still a sensation. This is one of those backlist titles that I think this was from 79 as well. No? 79 or the 80s? Yeah, 79. And this is one of those backlist titles that just never stopped selling. Back Bay and Cape Cod never stopped selling from this author. And rightfully so, because this is an absolutely terrific novel. Just a terrific novel in the grand old style of storytelling, so that you know from the first page that you're in the hands of an author who is not politely requesting your attention. He's demanding it, and he's going to get it because you're just going to keep reading. He knows exactly what he's doing. I wonder if this has an author photo. Oh my God, a young Bill Martin. No? Oh my, look at that. Oh my, there we go. Oh, well, that's fantastic. So I found a copy of this. That is incredible. This reminds me that I really ought to ask Bill if he would be willing to be on this channel, if he would really do an interview. I don't know if he's working on anything at the moment or what. I'm not sure he knows that I have a BookTube channel, much less that there are a lot of people here. I should ask him. That would be fun. As long as we stay off some radioactive subjects. He and I do not agree on George Washington, for instance. As you can tell, because he wrote a great book. He wrote a great novel called Citizen Washington. But to find Back Bay in a hardcover, and also the thing that doesn't come through in this video is that this has intense old book smell, which I always deride it because it is so overdone on Book Talk. These morons who don't care about books at all. just saying, oh, I live for this. But book people are also allowed to enjoy old book smell, and if it's right, it's right. If it's right, it's wonderfully inviting. And it's been a while since I read Back Bay, to put it mildly. I read Cape Cod a lot more than I have Back Bay, but it's been a while since I read this, so wonderful to have it in a hardcover. And then finally, I got another anthology, another big thing. This is Ellery Queen's Masters of Mystery. Just a standard thing, but with a lot of names. A lot of people are in here. And again, I love anthologies for just that reason. The more authors you give me, the better I will like it. So I got, 2 anthologies? Yeah, I got this and Hanging by a Thread, and then the Dorothy Parker I don't think really counts. So this will probably have stuff in it that I know. But it'll have a lot of stuff that I don't know. It'll have a lot of authors that I don't know. Yeah, Nedra Tyer. The first author, The Murder Game by Nedra Tyer. Never heard of this person. The K Mission by Jacob Hay. Never heard of this mission. Is this from Ellery Queen magazine? That would account for it. Yeah, these are drawn from Ellery Queen magazine. And with those square-bound magazines, a lot of times their regular authors never really break into the mainstream. So you don't know. They don't become P.D. James. They turn in really good work for 40 years, but they never really get the big book contracts, so you don't know. See, Nedra Tyer, Jacob Hay, Hugh Pentecost, Charles Einstein, then P.D. James, and Henry Parry, William Arden, Edward Hawke, Victor Canning, Joyce Harrington. Yeah, there are a lot of names in here I don't know. Fantastic. More than I thought. I mean, I would have grabbed something like this anyway. But there you go. There you go. How I got these back here? I have no idea. No idea at all. But I got a wonderful anthology, Ellery Queen's Masters of Mystery. I got William Martin's Back Bay in hardcover. Fantastic. I got The Ranger of the Susquehanna. I got The World of Aldous Manutius, the very thing I was thinking of that just appeared at the Brattle. I got a collection of Alfred Bester's short stories. Oh, Dorothy, you caused this avalanche for the last time. Hanging by a Thread by the great Joan Khan. Let's see here. The Hinge of Fate by Winston Churchill. Which means I have, 4 volumes to go? The Wreck of the Mary Dear by Hammond Innes. The Man on the Yellow Raft by C.S. Forster. So 2 nautical things. Gay New York. Palace Walk by Naguib Mahfouz. We shall see. Let's see, what else we got here? Roman Mornings, rebuy. The Dorothy Parker, the portable Dorothy Parker, and finally Crown by Francis Polini, which seems like a pen name. So there you go. That was a Brattle haul. It was a little bit long, but I haven't been there in a while, and it's possible that I will be going back. We're still playing whack-a-mole with the rain. Some rain is definitely coming. You can smell that outside. But when, where, and how much, I have no idea. Is it going to be raining in Boston tomorrow? Half the forecasts say one thing, half say another. And it matters because the Brattle sale lot is al fresco. It is outside. So it does not exist. They pull those carts in and tarp them over when it's raining. Who wants to go to the Brattle one without the sale carts? Anyway, so we shall see. I'm thinking the upshot of the errands that I had today and the incidents that happened today probably means that I have another errand to run this week. So if I do, I will go back to the Brattle. The nice thing about the Brattle is that it's virtually inexhaustible. I know this in the most intimate way possible because once upon a time, for a quarter of a century, I worked right around the corner from the Brattle. I worked at the old Barnes & Noble at 395 Washington Street that doesn't exist anymore. The address is still there, but there's no Barnes & Noble there. There hasn't been any Barnes & Noble there in a long, long time. But I worked there. It was right around the corner from the Brattle, so every day at lunch I would go around the corner to the Brattle. And that was every day. And I found something. I never came away empty-handed. I found something every day. So I know for sure that is not just sales talk. That is true. Anyway, this is enough for today. Anyway, so I will wrap this up. I will lovingly clean and curate all these things, and I'll be back. Thank you.